All right, everybody. Welcome to a technology challenged version of the Beard and the Bookie. It's an OG version. Me, the Bookie, the Beard right there, Josh. I was going to say Chico may or may not show up. He is a man of the people. You know, the holidays, there's a lot expected from the stash. So he's got many places to be, many babies to kiss. So whether or not he pops in at some point remains to be seen. But, you know, we used to do this back in the day, Josh. I think we can handle it.
Yeah, all those months ago, just the two of us talking.
I was like, Chico just did give me the thumbs up, so maybe he'll pop in. I don't know. We'll see.
More power to them.
All right, so we'll get to some MMA stuff. We'll get to some football, obviously. Even going to talk a little baseball. Um, if the right people pop in here, I have a rant prepared. But let's start with something that you and I care about, which is hockey, and not
Yes.
anything that is unexpected. I think we even mentioned it on last week's show. The NHL has officially pulled its players out of the Olympics this season. They actually are currently shut down. They kind of moved the holiday break up a couple of days because games were being postponed due to COVID anyway. So rather than continuing to postpone games, they just extended that holiday break a couple of days and you know, kind of let teams regroup and try and get as healthy as possible here for after the holiday. So, but again, and again, I think I made mention of this when we talked about it last week. You know, the NHL is looking forward. They've pulled out of the Olympics, which was, essentially a no-brainer. Their hands are tied at this point. There was no way that they could, even if they wanted to send their players to the Olympics with all the health the questions and whatnot, there's no way they could do it with with the number of games they have postponed at this point and figure out a way to make these up. It just couldn't happen. So the Olympics was, you know, an easy push off. However, we've got something here coming up in about a month, the All-Star game in Las Vegas, that is still on the table. And when you look at it from just a sensible standpoint, it's why. There's no point. It's just an exhibition in which you're going to have players gather around each other and just an outside chance of more COVID cases potentially happening, which was something that they were concerned about even a month ago before all the spikes happened. But when you're the NHL and when you are the league that of the four was hurt the most by the COVID shutdown, and ESPN has the rights to the All-Star game and you have that income coming in, I wonder if, gun to their head, they could even yank out of this if they want to.
I think it's a lot harder situation because they're going through ESPN on this one. Um, they need the money, but I do condone, like, I commend the NHL in a lot of ways just for being able to handle COVID as well as they have. I mean, of the major sports, they seem to have the best handle on it overall, and they take it the most seriously, probably because they were hit so hard. I think pulling out of the Olympics is a good call, and I also think that helps them make sure that the All Star game can go forward on ESPN. So I think that they were taking more of a measured stance when it came to risk of, do we want to let our guys go into the Olympics and potentially have massive outbreak everywhere, and then we have to shut the league down for weeks, which hurts us on a lot greater scale. Or do we, send a couple players to the All Star game in Vegas, where we kind of have a little bit more control in the environment, we have a little bit more say, and we can do things the right way, or at least the way that we're most comfortable, and still get a payday from ESPN. So I think overall it was probably still the right move, and I definitely think they'll go forward with it.
Obviously, now they had that big break in the schedule for when the players were supposed to go off in the Olympics. They are currently trying to work out how to kind of put the rescheduled games in that group now. There are some teams that only have a couple of games to make up. There are other teams that have as many as 5 or 6 games that need to be rescheduled. So, in a way, for the NHL, who has battled this COVID thing since it started and, kind of rolled with the punches, like you said, and has handled it for the most part fairly well. This seems to be almost a best case scenario for them in that, you have all these games. I think it's something like almost 50 games that need to be rescheduled. And, instead of trying to find these pockets in the schedule to try and fit it and, have these teams playing 3 games in 4 nights or whatever, or what have you, you had this 3-4 week stretch where you had nothing. And now you can just kind of piece it together from there and make it, as free flow as possible without, overextending any one team.
Yeah, I'm good with it. Like I said, I think they've really kind of put themselves in a good position here. They have the wiggle room that they need. It's nice to see that the NHL can do something like this, where like the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball have struggled a bit more, and the changes that they've made haven't necessarily been as easy for players and for fans. I think that the way the NHL is bringing it forward is actually pretty good. Like I don't have really many complaints with the way that they're handling things. And it helps that both of our teams are doing really well and haven't really been hit by COVID too badly. So this is probably a really good thing that the NHL is actually quite dynamic and doing so well right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, when they had the COVID stoppage the last time, on my end, the Rangers were playing really well. They were a team that were surging, would have gotten in the playoffs. And then when they came back, the NHL kind of worked it where, like, if you were on that cusp, we did like the wild card games and stuff like that. But they just weren't the same team when they came back. And also they weren't really a playoff team anyway. They kind of got exposed. But this year, they've looked different. They've been playing differently, and they're on a bit of an upward tick and a roll. And it would be really hard for any sort of stoppage to kind of kill that momentum. So yeah, them piecing it together as well as they have is good for like you said, both of our teams, who are on some upward momentum. And it's funny too, we've seen the NHL here, cut their break a couple of days early and extend it, say, okay, let's just regroup. We had 4-day break anyway. We'll make it 6. We'll reconvene the day after Christmas, test everybody and go from there. Whereas the NBA is struggling to have teams who have even the required 8 players. I mean, we have teams that are signing guys like Joe Johnson, who haven't played in the league in 4 years, just to have guys on the court. And when Adam Silver was asked about, potentially shutting down or maybe even missing Christmas games, he goes, "We've yet to find the what the positive would be in shutting down." I think the positive is pretty evident. You give everybody a collective time to take a breath and regroup. I mean, I think I know on a previous show I talked about because I'm a Bulls fan, so I saw that situation. I mean, they basically had them play 2 games where they had nobody. I mean, I should have played for them. That's how bad it was before they started postponing their games. So, and now, the Nets have missed a couple of games because they didn't have 8. Like I said, they're pulling guys out of the Big 3 league. Jay-Z is going to get signed soon.
Well, isn't it Ice Cube too?
Oh yeah, Ice Cube, not Jay-Z. Yeah, you're right, Ice Cube.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, Jay-Z owns the Nets. I'm sure he could just come down. Mark Cuban could play for the Mavs. There we go.
I'm in for that. Hell yeah. We're gonna get Alex Rodriguez out there for the Timberwolves.
Sure, I'm sure somebody would love to take a charge.
Me. I'm that guy.
I'm trying. Who who was that rapper who like wanted to legit try out for the NBA? I forget. I know he
I got the
played in like
Google machine.
he played in like summer league or a training camp or something. I can't remember who it was. I know like from the celebrity game, Bow Wow is pretty good, stuff like that. So,
Like
but
Kevin Hart. Oh, J. Cole.
There we go. J. Cole, even for the Magic, right?
No, Detroit.
Oh, Detroit. Yeah, he should definitely play for Detroit. Detroit could use him.
Yeah. Yeah, August 3rd of last year, the Pistons invited J. Cole to try out for the team. So,
Can't believe he didn't make it. I think anybody can make the Pistons. Our boy Brendan can make the Pistons.
Yeah, Brendan could do a lot of things that he didn't used to be able to do. So shout out to Welker.
That's true. Brendan's moved up, unlike some other people. And for our boy Sean, yes, I think I mentioned on the show a couple of weeks ago. I needed to fix all this for the work. Jersey boys, no, I'm not sorry.
So, Sean, just for you, since you're in the chat right now, I was going to save this for the other show, but ever since the season finale of Hawkeye, apparently anybody can be an Avenger now. So Dan's just cleaning up his look for marketing.
Since you brought that up, because we're doing both shows tonight, the next show, massive. Okay, I'm going to give you a spoiler-free Spider-Man review since I saw it this morning. Spoiler-free, so you're safe, Josh.
We'll see.
I will tell you nothing. As Josh mentioned, we will talk the Hawkeye finale. Did you? I know you said you were going to watch Matrix. Did you watch it?
Dude, I'm like 20 minutes into it. I've been trying.
Okay, so all right, so no Matrix talk, but we're also going to talk Christmas movies, Christmas presents, all that stuff. So that's the other show. All right, so let's get to MMA because a lot of stuff happened over this last week that I want to talk about. First off, we did have some fights last weekend, and I feel like this is just, it's the common thing. Derek Lewis is fighting. And you look at the betting line, and Derek Lewis is an underdog, and you kind of scratch your head, and then when it's over, Derek Lewis wins. And, Derek Lewis, before the fight, made it known that he felt like if he won, he should get a shot at the belt with Stipe. I'm not sure.
Stipe.
That's what he wanted.
Was Stipe?
So whatever, I can't do names. Shut up. So whether or not that's going to happen remains to be seen. But my question is, like I said, the whole underdog thing with Lewis has been continual now. I mean, I think this is going back 5 fights or something like that. The question I want to raise, and I think it's kind of legit, is Derek Lewis underrated?
I saw this on as on the ticker there, and I looked at it and I went, "That's a dumb question," because I don't think he is, honestly. I don't think he's really underrated. I think what he is, in all actuality, is inconsistent at best. He wins when he's an underdog because you're not really giving him anything, and that's the way his opponent treats him. When you don't take Derek Lewis seriously, he comes out and surprises you. When you take Derek Lewis seriously, he's not as big of a threat as you think he is. So I think that plays a lot into it. I mean, the guy's he's not known for having a gas tank. He's got a heavy hand, but he's not, the hardest hitter at heavyweight. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. I don't think he's underrated. I think he's fairly rated with right where he is. Maybe the books don't give him enough credit depending on who he's fighting, but I don't necessarily fault them for that either. Because, he's been beat by some guys he shouldn't have been beat by, and then he beats guys that he shouldn't beat. So it's difficult to say overrated, underrated. I think that the way he's viewed overall is a fit. It fits him really well. When I see him in more like big underdog type situations, that's when I like to watch him because I think he's going to come out and be a bit more explosive. But I mean, he's had some great fights and he's had some really boring fights. So I definitely don't think he's underrated. But I don't see him if he wins. Like, say he fights Stipe and wins, he's absolutely getting a title shot. What happens with the title picture though is a completely different story right now because as we talked about offline, Francis Ngannou's probably not signing a new contract with the UFC. I mean, if he wins this fight against Cyril Gane next month, he has to fight one more time, and then he would be out of contract. So who knows? Maybe Derek Lewis would be that final fight if he beats a guy like Stipe, sure. But I mean, he's most likely going to get somebody like Tai Tuivasa. Is probably going to be Derek Lewis's next fight, honestly.
Yes, Tai Tuivasa. Wonderful. All right, so you, I was going to get to Ngannou, but since you brought him up, Dana, who has been very talkative over this last week about a number of guys, basically, and you can tell me if I interpreted this wrong. I just basically saw what you threw up there. Dana has insinuated as if it's not a UFC saying Ngannou needs to leave. It's Ngannou saying he doesn't want to be there.
I think it's his agent is basically what Dana was saying is, these guys need to be careful with who represents them because the people that represent them and say things to me are the reason that deals could be so difficult to get made. So I think that Ngannou's agent is trying to oversell him and get, what an agent does, trying to get as big of a payday as possible. And Dana's like, no, that's not going to happen. And then the agent comes out and says things like, well, we'll walk and we'll just go to Bellator. And Dana's going to be like, okay.
Yeah, well, yeah. I would laugh at him if he threw out Bellator at me too.
Right. So, like, I think that's what he's getting at. But Ngannou hasn't really gone either way with it. But he also seems to be very just like money focused, and I think it's because he knows that he's going to get exposed eventually, that he's just looking for as big a payday as possible. Like, yes, he's very good and he's very electric, but he has a lot of holes in his game that he just makes up with speed and power early on in a fight. When you kind of get him into deeper water though, he struggles and he has a lot of mistakes that get made. So Cyril Gane's going to be somebody that's going to test him at that level. So that'll be interesting to see. But I think Ngannou might be worried about, like, if I don't get paid now, I'm never going to make this kind of money because I'm going to get exposed at some point. Like, that's where I think his mind's at.
Another guy Dana talked about was our boy Chimaev. And Dana was pretty upfront. He said there's not many guys lining up to fight him. Like, I'm asking, but nobody's biting. So then the obvious question was, hey, if you can't get anybody to fight him, does that just kind of move him to the line and does he get a belt shot? And Dana was quick to say no. So, I mean, that kind of – but then my question to Dana would be, okay, fine. I get that you don't want to put him in a title fight. Okay, fine. I get that. But you got to force a fight here somewhere. We need somebody.
He's got somebody.
Oh, what, the Colby fight?
No, I think he's fighting Bilal Muhammad.
Oh, I saw a rumor about Covington.
I saw that too. But I mean, Chimaev, I'm pretty sure posted it on his Twitter that he was fighting Bilal Muhammad. I think Bilal Muhammad agreed to it. Maybe it's not official, but I think they've agreed to fight.
I mean, the Muhammad fight interests me a tick more than Covington. I mean, I thought that was leading Covington to the slaughter.
Oh, so I mean, that's Bilal Muhammad, his latest target. He said he would beat him inside of a minute.
No, just another guy that he called out.
Yeah, I have heard that Colby Covington.
So yeah, that's a rumor that I keep seeing. Again, whether or not how legit it is, I don't know, but it's out there. And again, my feeling is you are leading Colby to the slaughterhouse. That is going to end badly for Colby.
He just called you Jay Baruchel.
Yeah, I see that.
That's amazing. I love that.
No, it's not.
Yeah, no, it is. 100% is. I think if it ends up being, you know what, we're in a fantasy league, and we both have an opportunity to get into the finals. We might have to make some kind of bet Jay Baruchel related. We'll talk about that later. I don't necessarily think it's leading Colby to a slaughter, but I'm not going to be mad if Shemaev knocks him out either. I think Colby could, like, Colby's got pressure. Colby's always coming forward. He wouldn't be afraid of Shemaev. Colby's probably looking at him though, like, why do I care? Like, what is this dude isn't on my level kind of deal. So it's hard to say if that is actually the fight. At some point, Dana's just going to be like, "Here, this is who you get." We're almost at like a Greg Hardy situation almost. So like when Greg Hardy came in, he wasn't very good, but he was beating cans because he had power. And I know like a buddy of mine fought him, and he was still on his initial contract, and they were talking about like, "What about Greg Hardy for your last fight on this contract?" And he goes, "No." He's like, "I'm not fighting Greg Hardy on the last fight of my initial UFC contract. I want a better contract, and then I will fight Greg Hardy." Like that was his whole mindset. So maybe that's what we're running into is people are like, "You want me to fight that guy who's probably going to make more money than me on this fight? No. How about we talk about my contract and then I'll fight that guy?" So I think that's what we're running into. Eventually, we will get a fight out of him, but I don't know when. I don't think it's going to be Colby. I think it'll probably be Bilal Muhammad's actually not a bad pick. He's got a really good run right now. Like win streak wise, he's doing very well. I think that's a good test fight for him. And then if he wins that fight, then he gets like a Colby, then maybe Usman after that.
The other thing that Dana talked about, and you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong because I think I have the right one, but maybe I don't. He was talking about Nick Diaz and saying how while Nick looked good in his last fight, and it was a fight that you and I talked about, Josh, in which we weren't quite sure what to expect out of him. And we didn't expect quite much, but he showed a lot more than I think either of us expected. But Dana has basically shut him down in that, he doesn't want to see him fight anymore. He doesn't think he should fight anymore, and essentially saying that Nick fights because he has to, not necessarily because he wants to. And I saw that. And here was my thought process, and you can tell me if you think I'm off base with this. Okay, if Nick had come out in that last fight and looked, I think like you and I expected, which was lost and out of shape and hadn't been in that octagon in years and blah, 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 then I fully see where Dana's coming from. But Nick looked like a Diaz. He was there. He was aggressive. He didn't look gassed at any point. He put on a very good fight, which is more than I can say for most of these people that go in the octagon these days. And regardless of the circumstances, okay, if Nick wants to fight and Nick can put on a good fight, then, the circumstances behind that are what they are, okay? Not for Dana necessarily to judge. And I find it kind of hypocritical for Dana to say that Nick shouldn't fight and that Nick only fights because he has to, when Dana's sitting here with cup in hand waiting for John Jones to get out of his 37th arrest and come finally get his ass in the octagon.
To be fair, it's I don't know if you and I watched that Nick Diaz Robbie Lawler fight the same way. Like, I felt like Nick went into that fight and he looked like a Diaz. He fought well, but he knew he was beat. He knew he was going to lose that fight going into it, and he like when that fight was over, like he quit. He could have kept fighting. He could have kept going. He quit. He was like, nope, he got me, and like he was very humble about it. That's not the Nick Diaz that I remember. That's not the Nick Diaz that was, what made the Diaz brothers somebody to talk about before Nate came and had his trilogy with Connor and made his own name. So I think that Dana looks at it and saw it the way that I kind of saw it, where it's like Nick went in there, he got one more fight. He made some money off of it. He got to close that chapter. He got to fight a guy who he had fought before, so he wasn't getting beat up by like some up and comer or anything like that. And like that's a good way for him to go out. He knows that he doesn't have it anymore. He can walk away clean. So I see Dana saying like, no, I think he should retire, is kind of what he did with guys like Chuck Liddell and BJ Penn and stuff like that, where it's like, nope, I think that they should not fight anymore. He said that about Frankie Edgar, I'm pretty sure too, but Frankie keeps going for some reason too. So no, I'm not really mad at it. I don't think that it's like, could Nick Diaz fight again? Yeah, absolutely. Does he need to fight again? No. Do I think he really wants to fight again right now? Probably not. I don't think he took that fight as seriously as he could have. So I'm not really upset with him saying this, and I think that Nick should probably stay retired. Like he can still help Nate and he can still do everything that he's doing, but he doesn't have to get back in that octagon. If he's hard up for money that bad, like Dana's worked stuff out with guys in the past, he can do it again. I'm really not that worried. As far as the John Jones things goes, John Jones is never going to fight again. I'm just convinced.
Somebody needs to tell Dana that.
Well, I think Dana's got him under contract, so Dana can be like, he ever wants to come back, he's got to talk to me. So like he has the trump card. So Dana can say whatever he wants. I don't think it'll ever happen because John will just be like, I'm not going to fight unless I get more money. Dana's like, guess you're not fighting then. Like that's just how he'll do it.
You would think John's been in the penal system enough times now that he wouldn't be arguing over money. Rations are rations, my friend.
Well, how else is he going to get arrested another 37 times if he doesn't have the money to afford bail? What I'm saying.
Well, I mean, he'd have a sugar mama, but then he'd probably hit her too. So, I mean, that's a...
Yeah, allegedly he didn't hit her.
Yeah, but allegedly. Allegedly he didn't run away from a hit and run. And, there's a lot of allegeds when it comes to Johnny. All right, one other thing in the MMA world, and I know you're very pumped to talk about this, Josh, because it's your favorite thing ever. Oh. So Tyron Woodley got his clock rocked by Jake Paul the other night and went night-night.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I came to you because Jake Paul, it started with Jorge Masvidal calling out Jake Paul and saying that he would fight him and break his jaw. And Paul then proceeded to offer him, I forget exactly what, but it was like $5 million plus part of the pay-per-view, blah, blah, blah. It said it would be the most money that Masvidal had ever made, yada, 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 whatever. Your response was, I don't care.
Yep.
I will tell you why you should care.
Okay.
Up until this point, okay, I remember the first time that he fought Woodley. And your response was, if Woodley doesn't knock him out, we know it's fake.
Yeah.
Okay, and now we've had 2 Woodley fights and Woodley on the mat, waking up not knowing where he was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we can still sit here and debate let me see if I can spit this out. Legitimacy of these fights. Masvidal will end your debate. That's why you should have, I'm not saying you should overly care about the fight, but you should have even a speck of interest in this fight. Because on paper, what Masvidal is saying is true. If I put Masvidal and Paul in a ring, okay, boxing or otherwise, Jorge should break his jaw. So if you want to settle your legitimacy debate, you should want Jorge in this.
No. And let me tell you why my legitimacy statement stands. He knocked out a Woodley on 2 weeks' notice. So it's not the same as the first fight. And I don't care because I also said that, like, I said this after the first Woodley Paul fight. I said MMA fighters need to stop going into boxing. I had said that before, and I'll say it again. I will say that Masvidal did say he wanted him in an MMA fight. Like, he wanted to fight Jake Paul in an MMA fight. And Jake Paul said, "But yeah, I've done the boxing thing. Like, who says I can't go over to MMA?" Like, sure, yeah, go over to MMA. Like, I want to see you do it at this point. Like, the whole boxing thing, he still hasn't fought anybody that as a boxer that makes me say, like, he's legitimate. Like, you knocked out Tyron Woodley on 2 weeks' notice. Tyron Woodley hasn't won a fight since he put out a song called "I'm gonna beat your ass." So, I mean, that was 5 fights ago. So, I mean, he's 0-5 since putting out that song. He hasn't beat anybody. And so, like, I don't care. He can say, like, "Oh, I'm going to fight Masvidal." Masvidal got knocked out by Kamaru Usman. So Masvidal's doesn't even have the shine. Like, he has a bit newer shine than Tyron Woodley does.
Well, that's why Masvidal is going after Paul. He needs to get some shine.
Yeah, he needs some money. So I get it. Go make your money. Fine. Am I gonna care at all? No. Like, am I gonna look at Jake Paul as legitimate? No. I wouldn't. I did notice how we never even talked about the Tommy Fury Jake Paul fight because I didn't care. Like, Tommy Fury has more boxing experience than Tyron Wood than any opponent that Jake Paul has fought before, and I didn't care.
No, I would have been more interested if it was Tyson, not Tommy.
Tyson Fury kills him. Like, they're not even close in weight or anything like that. So that's a completely different story.
Yeah.
But you even like guys like Ryan Garcia and people like that, he's trained with those guys, and they said that he's got skills. But if he ever actually went into a boxing ring with them, he's losing. You know, so I'm not too worried about it. And, like, he's going to keep getting media attention until he loses. So he's going to try and keep getting these fights where it's like he's going to get some credibility, he's going to get some shine on it, and he's going to make a lot of money. He's going to continue to do that until he loses. So that's why, for me, my best play is somebody who doesn't care and doesn't want to see this happen anymore, is just to not watch it or pay attention to it. Like, I'll read the result when it comes out, and I'll be like, okay, he just suckered another guy, or another guy just got a big payday off him. I wonder who the next one's going to be. Like, that's what my thought will be. And then as soon as they announce it, I'll be like, okay, don't care, and just move on. That's how I treat this whole situation.
So Woodley is 0-5 since he put out the song. I wonder what our boy Macho Man's record was against Hogan after he put out that song for calling out Hogan.
I'm sure you probably got a win somewhere in there because WWE is.
Well, I mean, they were teamed up. They were teamed up at points too, so whatever it is.
Yeah.
Speaking of we talked about Nick. Did you see Nate punking out somebody in the crowd, making him lose his beer or whatever that was?
That was hilarious. I love that. Yeah.
Like, and apparently the guy is an MMA fighter, and now he wants to fight Nate.
No, dude, you can't fight Nate after that. like, that man punked you in the stands. You don't get to fight him after that.
I've never seen a drink fly so high.
That was hilarious. Just walking by casually, and then dude just I
think he sprayed people 4 rows back.
Probably. That was great. I don't know who it was, like who that other.
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't get the guy's name. I just saw a thing that they had found out that apparently whoever it was happened to be an MMA fighter. I don't think he's a UFC fighter. I think he's just somebody who fights MMA, and he's like, now I want to fight Nate Diaz. I'm like, no, you don't, dude. No, you don't.
I think I forgot the clip. It was a clip on Twitter, but it was just like, "That's 2 for flinching." And then I saw that like him get him with it, and I was like, "That's great." Oh,
Are we hunting down the guy's name?
it's Caress, Carrese Archer, Karis Archer. It was at the Woodley Paul fight. Yeah.
Yeah, with a name like that, you don't want to call out Nick Diaz.
His street name is One Punch.
One flinch, maybe.
Yeah, one. Yeah, one flinch.
One flinch. I don't know about one punch.
Yeah, that was hilarious though. But yeah, so that's who it was.
One of the better video clips we've gotten of the year for sure.
You want to talk about a real victory? Like, it wasn't Paul knocking out Woodley; it was Diaz punking out that
guy. So obviously baseball is locked out and there isn't much going on, but a couple of teams needed managers, and they have gotten said managers. The Mets were no surprise; they got Buck Showalter, which I'll get into momentarily. The A's were very A's-y and went and signed Mark Kotze to be their manager, which, again, is very A's-like. Carl sent me something yesterday. We have talked about former Marlins GM, president, whatever the hell he is, Sampson, and his podcast. So Sampson went on a rant about the Mets, and Carl told me to take a listen to it. For a guy that used to work in baseball, I don't know if he just thinks that the common person doesn't have common sense or if he's just that stupid. There was a question asked of Billy Epler, Mets GM, during the press conference. Obviously in the media, there was a report that Max Scherzer had made it known that he wanted Buck Showalter to be the manager. So they asked Epler, did you talk to any of the players before making a decision? Two things. Number one, Epler can't say yes even if he did because we're in a lockout and you can't have any communication with players. So that's number one. And number two, even if he did, why in the world would he tell you? That would undermine him right then and there. So that's a stupid question, and it's stupid to even say that Epler's lying. Of course he's fucking lying. He can't tell you the truth no matter what the answer is in that situation. And then Sampson goes on to say that the Mets currently are an overrated team and they will win under 85 games.
I like this guy.
Again, an asinine statement. You know why? Because they're not done. I don't know how the rest of this roster is going to finish. They are still going to get another starting pitcher. They're still going to get another relief pitcher. They still might get another big bat. I mean, think about this. We don't know what the luxury tax situation is going to be because we're in a lockout and that's not settled. But regardless of what it's going to be, Cohen has made it known that whatever the number is, he's blowing way past it. He does not care. Whatever the penalty is, just give it to him. He'll pay it. So we have two names right now lingering out there that are big. And I'll exclude Chris Bryant from this because Chris Bryant is a logical and even a likely target of the Mets post-lockout. Like Chris Bryant could ultimately end up being a Met. But I'm going outside of that bucket. Two bigger names, one of which, if this were to happen, I would twist a knife in somebody in our chat's back so badly. Because there's the one guy in Carlos Correa who we've talked about turned down the big deal from Detroit. Okay, and, could the Mets give him a similar short-term big money deal to have him play second base or third base, team up with Lindor, yada, yada, yada. Possible. Or
possible.
Could they? Because we know the DH is coming. Okay, we know the DH is coming. I don't want it, but it's coming. So could the Mets look at their current state and go, instead of having a J.D. Davis or a Dom Smith or for God knows what reason, a Robinson Cano DHing. What if we had our guy Pete Alonso DHing? And what if I went and got Freddie Freeman? Again, is it going to happen? Probably not. But can I discard it? No, I can't. Because Cohen is giving and again, we're on Twitch, so I have to watch what I'm saying, but he's giving the no X to this offseason. He does not care. So, again, if he can give, and Freeman's not going to get, Freeman's probably looking for a 4 or 5 year deal, something like that. But if he could give Freeman a 3, if he gave Freeman 390 or 300 or something, something like that, it's possible. And it's nothing I can put past. So for Sampson to start coming out here and giving, predictions and saying they're not even a finished product yet. Stupid.
Well, I think if you get Freddie Freeman, you win over 85 games. You probably hold first place in your division for, let's say, 103 days. And then,
here we go.
and then you lose out because Freddie Freeman gets hurt, Pete Alonso gets hurt, and Max Scherzer gets Tommy John or something like that. So the odds are never in your favor.
Even if Max Scherzer gets hurt, that $130 million they're paying Scherzer will be better spent than the $100 million you're paying Byron Buxton.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, you have a quality product in Max Scherzer.
All right, well, then stop throwing, you want to throw grenades this way.
Ask me if I think the Twins are going to win more than 85 games.
Well, we already know that.
Yeah,
maybe A-Rod will buy the Twins.
No. I don't need 2 dead franchises in this state. Please, no.
So, obviously...
hold on. Let Derek Jeter buy the Twins.
And then Derek Jeter's already ruining the Marlins.
Yeah, but I mean, they can have a competition in state to see who ruins the team.
Besides, he can't. Every time somebody brings up Jeter, I feel like I got to hammer this point home again. Jeter can't go buy the Twins. He couldn't even buy the Marlins. Okay, they bought that on debt. Mm-hmm. On debt. He didn't even have the money to buy the damn team. He got all these investors. Okay, it wasn't like a Steve Cohen situation where he's like, do you want that in cash or you want a check? Okay. He got all these investors. It was like when A-Rod was trying with the Mets. All right, how he was rounding up all these investors, okay, to try and make the bid. Jeter got all these investors, and even with the investors, they didn't have the cash to make the buy. Like, it's the only thing I ever have seen worse than the Derek Jeter situation is when Bud Selig was still commissioner. And, the Wilpons had just gone through the Madoff situation. So MLB gave the Wilpons a loan, okay, which is unheard of. They don't give owners loans. But MLB gave the Wilpons a loan. And then when it was time to pay back the loan, Sealy gave them an extension because they couldn't. It was like, that's the only thing I've seen worse than the Jeter thing. But stop with the Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter shouldn't even be called an owner. Derek Jeter should be called a boy in a press box. That's what he is.
Zach, if you're in here, I just gave you an extra rant that you weren't anticipating. You're welcome.
He's not in here.
Well, he'll listen. And
well, guess what? I'm gonna say because I was hoping for more people to be in here that aren't. I have a rant prepared. I will do it at the end of the show, and then if we're gonna clip these things, we can clip it and you can put it in the chat for said person. Okay, since somebody wants to come at me. So we'll get to that. All right, so let's get to football. Chico and his college picks nearly got another one last night. Nearly got another one. Mizzou was handling Army and then took the second half off. Didn't do anything, okay, which also hurt me, by the way. Some of us had the over. And Mizzou decides on the last drive, basically starting inside their 5 to finally score. Really needed to get the 2-point conversion for both Chico's bet and mine. Did not. And, of course, Army just took the ball. And as soon as they didn't get the 2, I said Army's going to come down and kick the field goal and win this game. And they did. So Army ends up winning 24-22. Had you taken Missouri on the spread, you were good. Missouri covers the 7 with ease. Missouri money line gets clipped there at the end. I forget. I have to double check. I think Old Dominion won for good old Chico there the other day.
I think so.
So, Old Dominion's still keeping it upright for him. But I want to look ahead because we are not doing a show next week. We'll take the holidays off here.
They lost 17-30.
Oh. Yeah, oops. Never mind. Old Dominion did not come up good for Chico.
Nope.
So, like I said, we're taking the holidays off, so no show next week. So these bowl games are going to happen by the time we get back. And we've got some interesting things happening because it came out today that Georgia's got a bit of a COVID situation. JT Daniels is in COVID, which is somewhat of a situation. I mean, they've been playing, what's his name, Stenson or whatever.
Stetson, yeah.
Yeah, they've been playing him just as much as Daniel. So, I mean, if they had to alter, they could. That's not a huge thing. But it is interesting that the NCAA has put in protocols here for a COVID situation with these games in which, if one team has an outbreak and the other one doesn't, the team with the outbreak is going to forfeit and the other team's going to move on. So, just for argument's sake, if Georgia has an outbreak and Cincinnati had an outbreak, you would automatically get Alabama, Michigan without anybody ever playing.
Yep.
And but here's the funny thing. So for the semifinals, they're perfectly fine with just passing somebody along. For the championship, however, they're like, well, not necessarily. We have a date, which I believe is January 16th, might be the 14th, something in there, that they've said that's as far out as the championship game can be extended. So if somebody's got a COVID situation, we can slide this game, but that's as far as we can slide it. So we're going to try and get a champion. We're going to try and finagle that one as much as we can. As far as the semifinals, though, we'll move somebody along. We don't care that much. It's not a big deal.
I mean, I don't hate it. I understand why you have the different approaches. I mean, when it comes to a final, you want to see the 2 best. So you want to actually see who's going to win that game. You don't want it to have it be decided by COVID. What I think would be interesting is if, say, Georgia and Cincinnati both have outbreaks and can't play the same night as the final, or like you just reschedule those 2 semifinal teams to play each other once COVID's off. So say we automatically get, we'll say Bama and Michigan, just for sake of discussion here. We get Bama and Michigan in the final. Michigan or Alabama, either one gets a COVID outbreak. So you have to postpone the game. You got to push it back a week or 2. Now Georgia and Cincinnati no longer in COVID outbreak status. Let's have them play on the night that was designated for the national championship and hold the national championship a couple days later. That, I feel like, would be a decent way to go about this. You still get to let those teams play then. They still get to showcase if they want to. If the players don't want to play, that's on them. But you're at least giving those schools a chance to still be represented in a big spotlight as they should have been. So I feel like that would have been the right approach to go with.
I just, we've got other bowl games. Our guy Zach has tickets. He was going to go see A&M play in a bowl, and now they've got a COVID situation. and they're out of that game now. And I don't. What's it? I know you guys were talking about it earlier. Something about they're looking at Rutgers to replace A&M. Is that what I saw?
Rutgers is replacing A&M.
Rutgers is officially replacing A&M. So that's interesting. Talk about hanging up right.
Yeah, I mean, that really sucks for A&M. Like they just miss out on the bowl game completely, but like the way that things are going, it is what it is. Interesting that Rutgers was the one that they put in there.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like it wasn't like another SEC school.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to move too many other games around. I guess.
Well, this goes back to my point, though. Okay, I want to believe that COVID is not going to be a yearly thing here. Eventually, we're going to get through this, and that we're not going to have to worry about COVID outbreaks every season. But despite the COVID thing, we already have a situation, and I don't know that A&M necessarily had this situation, but we have a situation with several of these other. I mean, look at the Pitt Michigan State game. You have the two best players on each side: Pickett, the quarterback for Pitt, and Walker, the running back for Michigan State. Neither are going to play. What is the point of these bowl games? Okay, again, figure out what your number is going to be: 8, 12, 24, whatever the hell you want to do. Okay, make the playoff, that number. And then instead of doing all these stupid bowl games that mean absolutely nothing, just say, like, you can say, okay, here's where you figure out something, whether it's your rank or whatever, and you get X amount of money. Because that's how the bowl games are anyway. They're money. So just get the schools their money anyway, and let's skip all the stupid games. Because nobody wants to play them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we've talked about before, too. Maybe you get like 10, and that way you don't feel so overloaded. But, every alumni at every school that loves football or that used to play wants to see their team in a bowl game, wants to see them win, so wants them to have some kind of hardware. Everybody gets a trophy these days.
Woo!
So, right. But it's...
We'll just give everybody participation trophies. Everybody's into that now, right?
I guess, yeah. Not going to be a thing for my son, that's for sure. But I don't know. Like, I mean, they're going to try and maximize profit. You have all these companies that want to be able to advertise and get their names out there for bowl games, and that's why we have so many. So, like, from an advertising standpoint, I'm not mad at it. I just don't know. Like, I maybe watch 4 bowl games total, like, every year. So I don't know how people are watching every single one or trying to catch, as many as they can. It's too much, and I can't follow all of these teams. Like, I'm not going to be vested in any of it. Like, I'm vested in the Arizona Bowl this year just because Barstool is running it, and I want to see, like, what they do. Because I'm sure it's just going to be something I've never seen before, or it's going to be something ridiculous going to happen. So I'm here for that. But, like, most of these are just regular commentary. There's nothing really special going on. The games aren't even that great. Like the Jackson State game was actually pretty good. Like I thoroughly enjoyed watching that game. But other than that, like if you don't give me a reason to care, I'm not going to care. Is how I feel about the bowl situation in general right now.
So my fridge sounds like there's a monster in it or something. But anyway, but. Yeah, like the schools need the money, and also Vegas needs all the bowl games. That's also. That's probably the bigger thing. No, you're right. Nobody would watch these bowl games because they didn't have money on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, always driving the force. Also, that's another thing. Besides the other, I've got 2 rants later. I also have a work-related rant for you people. Because apparently everybody wants to do the same thing lately. And I don't understand it. It's the holidays. You people need to stop being such assholes. Oh, yeah, I can't say that on Twitch either. My fault.
No, it's the other one, the B word. You can't say the B word.
Wow, man. There's a lot of words I'm not allowed to say. You got to. Instead of the ticker, you need we got to get a scroll of the words I'm not allowed to say.
Yeah. I mean, we're not even affiliate yet, so I think we're okay for a little bit.
Okay.
We've got 14 to go, I think.
Let's switch to the NFL. And we watched the Bucs basically lose everybody that wasn't named Tom Brady. Chris Godwin tore his ACL. He's done for the year. Leonard Fournette has an injury that's severe enough that they signed Le'Veon Bell, who apparently was training to go the Frank Gore route in box. Mike Evans is banged up. Yeah, everybody that's somebody that's not named Tom Brady is hurt. Brady, went all Brady and called out the Players Association and said the rules need to be changed following the Godwin injury, which I'll get to in a second. But the bigger question is your preseason prediction was the Rams, and that's been a little wishy-washy. The Bucs certainly seem to be the team, look like they were on a nice little path here to repeat. That has certainly hit a bump. Rodgers is hanging around. I think the steam behind the Cardinal train, as we have said multiple times, is starting to slow down. So how, I guess it's a two-part question. One, how do you feel about your Rams pick currently? And two, are we willing to kind of call the Bucs dead at this point?
I mean, I'm not as confident in my Rams pick as I was at the beginning of the year. I feel a little bit better about it seeing Arizona drop off and lose to the Lions. Like, that made me feel a lot better about them in that division overall. The injuries to Tom Brady make me feel a little bit better. I mean, the Rams are really going to tell me a lot playing the Vikings this weekend because the Vikings are either really, really good or really, really bad. So, like, if we get a good – well, and the Vikings are without Dalvin Cook this weekend. So, I think they get a win. I think they get a win pretty easy. So I think that they're kind of looking on the up and up towards the end here. I think that they have a good set of games and they have a good stretch that's going to carry them into the playoffs a little bit. So I'm okay with it. I'm not as confident as I was at the beginning of the year. Let's see kind of how the playoff structure shakes out. They'll probably have to play the Packers at some point because the Packers, I think, are the favorite right now from the NFC. As far as the Bucs go, the only player that had me ever concerns me about the Bucs and whether or not the Bucs are still in it is Tom Brady. Tom Brady hasn't gone down, so the Bucs are not dead. Like, Tom Brady goes down, that team is in trouble. Then we can pretty much call them dead with all the other injuries. But Tom Brady has done more with less before, so this isn't anything new. And I mean, I think they struggle. They always have trouble with the Saints for some reason. Like, the Saints just own the Bucs, so take that at that value as well. And I think that we'll see kind of what everybody else that is on the Bucs has. What can they bring to the table? What can Brady do with them now that he doesn't have like all the big guys that he wanted due to injuries and everything else? So I'm not going to call them dead. Let's see how it shakes out. They definitely don't look great, but Tom Brady being Tom Brady and who he is, I'm not going to say that they're dead until they're no longer in the playoffs. Like, that's when they're dead, not before then.
You and me are sharing a brain about Brady's still there. And the other thing is, don't forget, outside of Godwin, for the most part, they've talked about these guys being done for the regular season, not the playoffs. Yep. So, he's still going to get Evans and probably Fournette and, the defensive guys that went down, so, it's not like they're going to be bare. By the way, for those of you still in fantasy contention, if you remember last year when Evans was knocked out and Godwin was kind of humbled, the guy that Brady leaned on in the wide receiving core was Scotty Miller. So that is a name to keep an eye on for your waiver wire this week. Just a little FYI. But yeah, I'm certainly not putting any dirt on the Bucs as of yet. A, because of Brady, and two, because of the fact that Calvary will more than likely come back for the postseason. But I think the interesting thing is that there is a little bit of a window open here for Rodgers. I think they were kind of on a collision course anyway. When you look at the NFC as a whole, I don't know if anybody on the outside, depending on how much you feel toward the Rams or even the Cardinals, I think you're kind of looking at the Bucs and the Packers on that collision course. But this gives a little bit more of an opening for Rodgers. And, I'm sure Rodgers, I don't know how much it necessarily means to Rodgers ultimately. I think either way, he's probably leaving Green Bay after the season. But the narrative would be a lot easier if he at least reaches the Super Bowl for him to leave.
See, I think if he makes a deep playoff run, he stays.
Oh, no, I think he's gone regardless.
I don't know, man. A lot of the rumblings and the feelings that I'm getting in my part, living in the NFC North, everything is kind of pointing to he's probably going to come back because what he's getting, I mean, they're supporting him a lot more now. He has kind of more control and more say. And I mean, it's not like they're playing poorly. I mean, they're playing well. So if he gets to continue to have that kind of role and he gets that kind of freedom and that power, I don't see a reason for him to leave. So
I would say, we've got the Devontae Adams situation.
Yeah.
And we've all, we joke with Chico all the time about Derek Carr and his, continual, petitioning to Adams to come to Vegas because they were the college duo.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not Carr lasts in Vegas remains to be seen as well. Although if I'm Vegas, I'm perfectly fine with Carr. Carr's not the problem in Vegas. But if Adams re-signs, if they find a way to keep Adams, that certainly goes a long way in your theory of Rodgers staying, because then I think Rodgers would have a large part in talking to them about keeping Adams, and that would ultimately allow him to stay. If for some reason Adams is gone, Rodgers is gone. He's not staying after that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I think I think that's what you're ultimately looking for before anything else. But it's funny. We've still got the rest of the regular season to go through here and then the playoffs, but already the QB carousel is starting. Now we're the latest one is, the Browns are ready to move off of Baker, and maybe that's a Deshaun Watson area.
Let Deshaun Watson go to Cleveland. That makes sense.
Well, here was the funny one. I heard, I got to remember exactly how it worked out. Somebody floated this one. It was a 3-team deal, which, as you know, 3-team deals in the NFL never happen. But a 3-team deal in which, hold on, I gotta remember. Oh, Baker went to Houston. Russ went to Cleveland, and Deshaun went to Seattle.
But Russ has that no trade clause, though, and he wouldn't want to go play for Cleveland.
Well, I think they're going ultimately with the, Russ wants out. I don't know that Russ would necessarily. Now, as you said, Russ has a new career. I'm not sure Russ would necessarily sign off on going to Cleveland. But somebody floated that out. I don't know. But I just find it funny that we've still got, a month and a half of football remaining, and we're already talking about the QB carousel. One other thing I did, I forgot to bring up when we were talking baseball, bringing up Deshaun Watson, and when a guy has as many rub and tug cases as he does, it reminds me of other situations. The Trevor Bauer situation is still ongoing.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And MLB is kind of in a pickle here because the DA's office is not moving on with the investigation. When I say not moving on, I mean they're still investigating. It hasn't moved. It's not moving on as far as a conclusion. MLB is still doing whatever investigation they are, but also due to the lockout, they can only interview certain people. Like they couldn't necessarily go to Bauer and try and talk to him, and Bauer certainly wouldn't be willing to talk to MLB with the legal side still going on. And this poses the question of, we had the Marcell Ozuna situation where he got charged and then the charges got dropped. He was found innocent, blah, 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 blah. And MLB still suspended him 20 games, for against the policy. Bauer was obviously put on administrative leave for a good chunk of last season once this all came out. Under the administrative leave, he was still paid, so he wasn't really missing out on anything. He already picked up his huge option with the Dodgers for this season, a situation in which Andrew Friedman said, it's something that at the moment we have to deal with, and it certainly impacts our payroll. So he's not exactly thrilled with the idea. But assuming that, and obviously nothing's going to happen right now with the holidays, but assuming that the DA's office doesn't necessarily move here in a timely fashion, and with the celebrity status attached to this case, they certainly want to cross their T's, dot their I's, and make sure everything is done correctly, and that if they're going to take a swing, they don't want to miss. But if and when this lockout ends and we get to spring training, and this situation isn't done from a legal standpoint, what does our boy Branford do? He can't let this linger.
Well, he can, and he most likely will.
The administrative leave thing is exhausted at this point. If you're Bauer, okay, and as much as, and I've talked about the good and bad sides to Bauer, okay, you can pick whatever side you want to fall on. I'm not necessarily picking a side here. But if I'm Bauer, okay, and if the legal thing is still going on, I'm going to him and go, listen, you already had me on administrative leave for half of last season during this situation. Okay? I can't speed up the legal process. I've talked to them. I'm being cooperative, and he's probably being cooperative to MLB to whatever extent he can be here. Okay? If and when the legal side wants to do something, then you can act. But until then, you got to let me play. I'm going to fight you on the administrative leave thing here.
Do you think that, if they let him come back and let him play, that the Dodgers even keep him on the team, or do you think they would just cut him at that point?
I think it depends on the clubhouse. I mean,
because the guy's been a distraction.
Now, here's the thing. Now, I'm going to make a comparison here. The difference is that Bauer, if you put Bauer on the mound, he can be productive. This other guy, I'm not sure he's got an ounce of productivity left in his body. But from where I'm going with this, they're similar. So bear with me here. The Trevor Bauer situation is very similar to the Robinson Cano situation, in which the Mets are going to bring Cano to spring training. And the first thing they're going to do, Okay, and I think that's why they brought guys like Scherzer and Marte and Escobar in, because they needed to change that dynamic in the clubhouse. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to see, is Cano accepted in that clubhouse? Like, does Cano talk to them? Does he apologize or whatever you want to do there? Like, you know, are they? Is the rest of that team willing to move on with Cano? Because that's phase one. If not, I don't think Cohen has any problem meeting the money. Okay, and you know, if they're willing to move on, then you move on to, okay, well, can Cano do anything? You know, and then they get over that hurdle. All right. With Bauer, obviously, you don't have to worry about can he do anything. If Bauer's on the mound, you know what Bauer can do. But to your point, that was a big distraction last year. And, you know, there was a lot of reports and rumblings coming out that had there been a situation where Bauer was allowed to come back. They didn't want him to come back. So, yeah, that puts the Dodgers in an interesting situation in which if Bauer pushed and pulled and got himself allowed to come back, what they would ultimately do. Push come to shove, I think ultimately the Dodgers would let it play out. The Dodgers are kind of short on arms at the moment. And, you know, as much as the bad side of Trevor Bauer there may be right now, and as many questions as we may have, the Dodgers could certainly use Bauer's arm on the mound. Now, if everybody in that clubhouse walks into Dave Roberts' office and said, I don't want him here, it's a different story. Then Andrew Friedman's going to have to act. I just don't know. Time heals wounds, so to speak. We've gone through this Bauer situation now for what seems like, 6 months, maybe more. Maybe guys don't feel the same as they did, however many months ago. I don't know. So that would remain to be seen. But the guys in that clubhouse, I think, would ultimately make Friedman's decision.
Yeah, I agree. And, we talked about it. Like, Trevor Bauer is really the entire reason why we had the spider tag incident. Like, he was the guy that came out and made it all public, really. I mean, him and Josh Donaldson together. But, I mean, between them, like, Dave kind of brought this new era of issues within baseball to light. So I think that the players might just be like, no, we're better off without him. Like, yeah, we could use him, but I don't want that distraction in the locker room. Like, I don't need that kind of heat. I don't want that kind of publicity following and hanging over the team because he's here with, still answers with the legal thing. So I think that even if the administration let him back, I'm on the side of, like, if I'm a player in that locker room, I want him back. So I think if we had talked about this before, we both said, like, he's pretty much done. So where he lies, he lies. I don't really care. If he comes back to the Dodgers, people are going to look at him differently, and he's going to get treated different. So,
yeah, I said I thought he was done, but the longer this DA thing lingers, the more and more life it gives him. We've seen people come back from worse.
Yeah, we've definitely seen people come back from worse. I mean, we've seen people switch sports and be able to continue after things like this. So, I mean, it never ceases to amaze me what happens here. So, I'm just going to let it play out. Baseball is not even a thing right now, so I don't really care what happens to him at this point. It doesn't affect me in any way.
Why is Teddy upset?
Food time.
Ah, yes, food does. He's hangry.
Yes, very.
Even at 2 months old, they understand the hangry.
He's got that colic, so like he's just rough.
Colic is a son of a.
Yeah, I think we put him down at like 9:00 last night, and I think he didn't actually fall asleep until like 3 in the morning. That was fun. That was a real good time.
Yep, I know those days. So, all right. So here's what we're going to do, Josh. Before I get to the rants, we're going to do the picks. Now, normally I would be on my laptop and I would have the lines in front of me, but I'm going to need you to assist me with the lines because I can't see them. Well, you have your picks written down, but I need lines. I need lines for my picks.
You starting with college or anything?
Well, we've already kind of gone through the college picks before, so we can just kind of toss those up on the Twitter. I'm not really worried about that. We'll just knock out the NFL for this weekend.
Okay. Give me a second.
I was going to say there are some games that I know off the top of my head I was looking at. Here we go. I'll do one of the mini rants here while Josh is getting lines. It's better than dead air. Let me tell you something. All right, working at a casino and working through the holidays, I've never seen people do what they are doing right now. In different states, you have different minimum bets and different options for betting. In the certain state that I work in, we have what are called quick picks, which is essentially you don't make the picks. You say what kind of bet you want to do. You want to say how many teams, and the computer just spits out picks for you. And you could do the minimum bet is $2 for these things, and you can ultimately win, $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever. So when it comes to these situations, when you do a little money to win a lot, like in most situations, Uncle Sam wants to know. I have never seen so many people in their attempt to avoid Uncle Sam used their older relatives to try and cash their tickets. I've got grandma and grandpa coming in here having no idea why I'm asking them their information or anything. Yesterday, I had a guy, an older gentleman, perfectly fine, nothing, perfectly fine gentleman, who proceeded to give me his medical history, showed me a picture of the scar that went completely down his spine, showed me the x-ray in which 30 screws were put in his back, the whole thing. And then gave me a story about how he believes his grandson's tickets were stolen out of his truck and yada, yada, yada. So me being the nice person that I am, I do a little research, trying to figure out about the tickets. I find out, only to find out from my security team that his grandson has been banned from the casino, and he's been running this ring, and now he's using his grandpa as a patsy. Stop using your older relatives, people. It's the holidays. What the hell?
Dude, like, now that you're on that side, now that you're on that side of the business, like, you're starting to see a lot more of what I see in my business, like the things that people will do to try and game the system to get around shit. And using older relatives is like that's like number one. Like, I see that all day, every day.
Well, we have another thing, which is we cannot repeat a ticket. So let's say I'll just give you a general thing. So let's say you wanted to do a Packer Patriot parlay this weekend, whatever. Okay, you say, give me 2 tickets for $50. I can't give you 2 tickets for $50. I can give you a ticket for $100, but I can't give you 2 tickets for $50. So a guy comes up the other night. He's got the ticket in his hand, and he proceeds to read off the ticket. I tell him, she can't repeat the ticket for you. Like, can't do that. He walks away. Now his boy comes to my other window and proceeds to try and repeat the ticket again. Like, what is with these people? Like, do they think they're fooling me?
Hey, they're going to test. I mean, they're testing you. So, like, this is kind of how this works. And you'll get to see this more and more. They're going to try stuff to see, like, what you catch and what you don't catch. And then they're going to evolve what they do based on how you react. It's a forever cat and mouse. So, like, the fact that you're catching these early on is good. They're going to have to come up with something more elaborate at some point to try and get around it. Normally, what they do is they just go repeat bets at different casinos. Like, that's normally what they would do. But why they're trying it that way, I guess, is they're under the assumption that you're just not paying attention.
No, apparently. They think I just sit back there and look good.
Apparently. That's not the way it is, though. Do like, when they do that, like, is there a warning process that gets involved? Are they removed from the casino, or, like, how does that work?
Well, basically, it's my call. So basically, I tell him, I tell them, like, like when the guy came up again, I said, like, dude, I just told your boy he can't do it. Now you're coming up and trying to do the same thing. Like, I'm not going to repeat it. You need to go. But, like, had they come back 5 minutes later and tried it again, then, yeah, I would have called security and had security just drag them out.
Yeah.
I believe I told you the other day about my guy that got so angry he went down to the blackjack table and continued his anger. And I had to go down and deal with him at the blackjack table. And this is still ongoing. This is 3 days later, and this is still an ongoing thing with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, you're a lot nicer than I was in those situations. Like, that's I'm normally a two strike and you're done.
Here's the thing about this guy. He went through me. He wasn't happy with me. Then he went through another person. He wasn't happy with that person. Then I gave him, a quote unquote management person, in which his response to me after that was, she was the B word. He's just ultimately, and like, I talked to my boss about it, and my boss is, he's like, well, if he ever talked to me, he's going to get the same. He's just not going to be happy until he gets what the answer is that he wants to hear, which he's not going to get from anybody. So he's just not going to be happy. So I've just kind of moved on from that. But yeah, it's been an interesting first couple of weeks. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I love these stories, though, because so much of what you're dealing with is so much of what I've dealt with for the last 3 years, just from the banking side of the house. So, like, it's fascinating to know that it happens to you too, and your approach to it, like, is definitely not how I approach it. But it's weird how people do the same thing.
It's funny because where I'm, the place that I used to work at was customer service. Like, the customer could be a grade A-hole, but you were basically told to eat it and cater to them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, this place, they kind of talk about customer service, but when it comes to it, they're more of the FU kind.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to get that. Like, I feel like I need to kind of more embrace that. Like, okay, I don't need to cater to them anymore.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I've been at that point. My company is a big one on the whole. You have to, customers first and everything like that. So I get it. It's nice when you're on the receiving end of so many bad calls and everything like that every single day, or like you have all these negative interactions. It's tough for you to just kind of bounce back and be like, okay, like, no, we're good. We'll get through it. But when you have a company that's like, yeah, we'll talk about it, but if this is the way that they're going to act, it's a judgment call for you. Like, that's really nice. So I'm glad you have that, because that's not something that everybody has.
And one other thing, if you have a license or some sort of identification in which your name is spelled differently than it may be spelled on a legal document like your birth certificate or your social security card, you should probably have both of those on you at the same time.
Yeah.
Because, I've got to verify you in systems, and when your name is spelled one way and then it actually is spelled another, like, all of a sudden you're getting flagged for things, and you're making my job more difficult, people. So just have, you might want to mention that. So.
Dude, I'll share a quick story with you. I do have everything up, so I am ready to go to the next section, but I'll tell you the story real quick.
Okay.
One of the things
this is what we do. We go on random rants here.
it happens. So I was working in the fraud department, and I was taking calls and like doing initial investigation work. One of the things we have to do is verify individuals. I mean, we're talking about a bank and money, so we have to verify you. Being that like you're on the phone with us, I can't see you in person. A lot of what we do is we send links out for you to send pictures of like a front and back of your ID that we can then verify, make sure it's valid, and then we can talk to you after that. So I was training in a new guy. This is 3 years ago, 3 years ago. And he was talking to a guy who was just kind of being a dick to him the entire call. And they're telling him, be nice, be nice. So he sends out the government ID link. And the guy says, okay, I took a picture of it. Let me know when you get it. And so he's like, okay. He pulls up the system. Dude sent him a dick pic. Like that was his version of identifying himself. Like, never saw that happen before. I always wondered if it would happen that day. This guy was a former cop that he sent this to. So, like, dude was not happy. And, like, that dude ended up, like, getting charges pressed against him and all kinds of things. But, like, you want to talk about people having issues with IDs and doing weird stuff, like, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Dude just straight up dick pic, sent that in for identification. Like, all right, cool.
All right. So here's what I want from you, Josh.
Okay.
To make this quick and easy, just tell me the game, and then I'll tell you whether I need the line or the pass.
Okay. Well, I guess Thursday tonight's game.
Yeah, that's going on now.
It's Niners Titans. So we'll pass that. Saturday, Browns at Packers.
Yeah, I know that line is like 7, so I'm gonna pass on that.
7.5, but yeah. Colts and Cardinals.
Yeah, give me that line. It should be 1.
Yeah, it is 1. -1 Arizona, +1 for Indy.
Yeah, I would you could take the +1 if you want to. Frankly, one's not gonna play. So I just think Colts money line. I think the Colts are on some positive momentum right now. You could say they're coming off the big win against New England last week, and maybe you catch them off a high. I think that Reich, I'm watching Hard Knocks, so I think Reich has them focused, pulling in the right direction. The Cardinals are kind of floundering, and Kyler Murray is having problems when he doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins to just throw a ball up to, and somebody will get it. So I like the Colts here, Colts money line. It's probably whatever it is, 1.5, 110, whatever. Not huge money, but I like the Colts to win that game.
It's 105 for the Colts money line right now. And I also had the Colts money line. That was one of my picks for today as well.
There you go.
Next game, Buccaneers at Panthers.
No, I'm not going to touch that. The Panthers are talking about having Cam and Darnold play. The Buccaneers have, nobody. That's just, I want no part of that.
Okay. Giants at the Eagles.
Another one I want no part of. Jake Fromm is probably going to start for the Giants. But this is a divisional game, much like the other night with the football team and the Eagles. That thing got up to 10.5, and the football team hung in there. They ended up covering. That line right now is what, 10? Maybe it's ticked up to 10.5.
9.5.
Oh no, I was actually ticked down. Yeah, I think that 10. If I had gotten 10.5, you could have talked me into taking the Giants. I don't like laying that many points in a divisional matchup. 9.5 is about right. Yeah, I'm not touching that.
Okay. Chargers at the Texans.
Another one where I think the line. What is the line?
It's
12.
It's 10.
Yeah, the Chargers don't blow people out. I mean, as bad as the Texans are, the Chargers just don't blow people out. I couldn't advise you enough to put your money on the Texans, but yeah, I can't lay that with the Chargers now.
Next game, Lions at the Falcons.
Yeah, now this is an interesting one. The line is not large, if I remember correctly.
It's 5.5.
Yeah, the Lions are starting to get respect here.
And right now they're
I
a
would
plus
wait.
they're a plus 190 on the money line.
Yeah, I don't know if I could go money line. You know, and I'm not saying they couldn't win the game. The Falcons aren't all that great either. I would wait. I would try and hope that thing ticks up to like a flat 6, something in that area. But you know, I wouldn't hate taking the Lions. I'm not sure that would be an official play, but I wouldn't hate the Lions in that spot.
I have the Lions was actually my second pick for tonight. I had them at plus 5.5, so I like that.
Okay.
Next game, Baltimore at Cincy, Ravens and the Bengals.
Yeah, the Bengals are 2.5.
3.
Oh, it's a flat 3 now. Yeah, no.
Yep.
At 3, I don't like it. 2.5, I think I would probably take the Bengals at 2.5, although that could also potentially be a trap. Huntley played pretty well against the Packers, you know, the other day. They you know, maybe if Harbaugh actually kicks an extra point one of these days, they could win a game. You know, and again, I can't seem to get on the right side of a Bengal game when we do this. But yeah, 3 I don't like. If you get 2.5, I might take the 2.5.
Next game here is Rams at the Vikings. This line just moved because I had it at 3.5. It is now 3.
At 3, I'll take the Rams. 3.5, I would not.
Yeah.
You know, as you said, the Vikings have been very Jekyll and Hyde. You know, and the Vikings, I believe, where are they right now? Are they in the playoffs or are they outside looking in?
They're outside looking in right now.
Yeah. So they
7-7.
So they need this game as much as the Rams do. But I think the Rams are looking at this as an opportunity with the Cardinals floundering to maybe recapture the division and set themselves up for at least one home playoff game. So this is a big game for them. As you mentioned, Dalvin Cook probably out with COVID. I don't know if he'll get cleared in time.
He just got put on the list today, so there's no way he's playing.
The protocols always. I thought like vaccinated guys, they could get like 2 and 24 and come back, that kind of thing.
Something maybe, but
I don't know what the new protocol is. So, you know, we've seen Madison when filling in with Cook being adequate, so maybe it's not a huge drop off, but I think the Rams win this game. I think the Rams view this as a much bigger spot than a Viking team just trying to hold on.
Yeah, I agree. Even at the 3.5, I liked them. I thought that this wasn't going to be that close. I had it as a 10-point game in my head, so I was like 3.5 is fine. I'm good with that.
Also, a key point for the Rams, not this week, but going forward, they just designated Cam Akers to return. Remember, yes, Akers, you know, was thought lost for the season with that what was it, Achilles or ACI, I forget, something like that. He did it in training camp, but you know, they could potentially have him for maybe last game of the regular season, or just have him for the playoff run. And you know, Henderson's been good back there anyway. But you know, if all of a sudden you had a 2-headed monster of Henderson and Akers, and even, you know, if you're just kind of easing Akers back in while Henderson still carries the load there, it's still a big addition for the Rams here for the stretch run. So something to keep an eye on there moving forward.
For sure. Next game, I have a lock on this one. It is Jaguars at the Jets. And my lock bet, I'm going to tell you this before we even get into it. My lock is that the fans lose. So it doesn't matter who wins the game, the fans lose. So that's my lock for that game.
What? So here's the thing. I'm going to ask for a number here, but it's not going to be the spread. I want to know the over-under for this game.
No, it's a pick 'em.
No, I don't want the spread. The over-under.
Oh, the over-under 41.5. Sorry.
I might take the over here. And you may look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But look at the Jet-Dolphin game last week. It was a similar over-under. and the Jets scored on a Dolphin defense, which is a lot better than the Jaguars. And if there's ever a team where a Jaguar offense could get right, it's the Jets.
Yeah.
And 41, and in today's NFL, 41.5 is a low total. Mm-hmm. So I might take the over there.
Yeah,
but as far as picking a side, hell no, I'm not picking a side.
Yeah, no.
That sounds like an NFL London game.
I think Jacksonville has the number 1 pick again. I think
they do.
Yeah, because Detroit's won 2 games now. So if I'm Jacksonville, I lose this game. I think the Jets probably win it. If you want to go pick them, I'd take the Jets. Just because Jacksonville's pretty much protecting that number 1 spot right now. I would say the under, but I mean, I'm not going to argue with you on your overtake. Like, solid reasoning behind it. I could definitely see it. Next game is Bills at the Patriots. So the Bills going to New England this time.
Yeah. So if you remember the first time around, I was all over the Patriots. I told you the Patriots would win that game. I'm going to go the opposite way here.
Okay.
Now, mind you, my feelings on the Bills have not changed. I still don't find the Bills to be legitimate. I still think the Bills are essentially frauds. I still think their fans are frauds. All of that is still very consistent. However, I think you could play Bills money line here and get away with it, because had the Patriots won last week, I think the Patriots are full throttle, moving ahead and never looking back. I'm sure Belichick has them locked and focused on this game. They certainly have the mental edge over the Bills, as they are firmly entrenched in owning them. However, there's a little vulnerability to the Patriots right now. And if there's ever a chance for the Bills to try and prove that they are equal or a threat, this is it. So as a last man standing type of ideology, I'll take the Bills here.
Yeah, money line is at a plus 110 for the Bills. Spread is 2.5. So money line's definitely a better go than the.
If you can get
spread on that.
At 2.5, I take the money line. If that ticks up to an even 3, take the 3.
Yeah. Next game, Bears at the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's hot garbage. I want no part of it.
Okay. Steelers at the Chiefs.
That line. What is that line?
I have conflicting numbers here. 8.5.
Yeah, 8.5. No.
I have a conflicting number that says 7, but 8.5 is what I'm showing.
I thought I saw 7. If you can get if you're laying 7, I would lay the 7. I don't see the Chiefs not winning this game. I think the Chiefs are now full steam ahead. They are where everybody thought they would be. When they had that first 5 weeks and they stumbled, we were on this show, and we were talking about what's wrong with the Chiefs and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I told you, the first 5 weeks will be hard, then all of a sudden. And also, what did we say when the Chiefs were struggling? The Chiefs aren't taking what the defense is giving them. Guess what the Chiefs are doing now? They're saying, you want us to check down? Okay, we'll check down. We're fine with that. You don't see the long bombs anymore from Mahomes. Mahomes is perfectly fine. They got Edwards-Helaire back. They're using him with Kelsey and blah, 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 blah. So the Chiefs are moving full steam ahead. For the Steelers, it's can they find a way to have another winning season for Tomlin, and can Big Ben go out on his shield, essentially? So 7 I'm good with. 8.5, maybe not, probably not.
Okay. Next game here, Vegas and Denver.
Yeah.
In Vegas.
Yeah. What line 2.5?
Pick them.
Oh, that's even better. I love the Raiders. Raiders. No Bridgewater. So you get Drew Lock. And I know that the Raiders post Gruden have been a dumpster fire, but the Broncos are not a good team. They're not a good team. I think that people think they're better than they are. And in a division game, records don't matter. I think this is a chance for Vegas at home to get back up on the horse a little bit here and get a win. I think they can put up some points on the Denver defense. I like the Raiders in this spot.
It is a 41 for an over-under as well.
Yeah,
I honestly,
I don't know
like
that
the
I would.
under.
Yeah, I don't know that I would touch it because you don't know what you're going to get on a lock. And then it's if you're playing the under, okay, it's that you're expecting the Broncos not to score, so now you got to hope that Carr is also not going to score a bunch. 41's a low number. 31-10 gets you basically to the number. So it's a tough one there.
Yeah.
But no, I like the Raiders in that game.
Okay. I'm going with Denver just because Chico's not here. So
there you go.
I'll take the outside on that. Next game, Washington football team at the Cowboys.
Yeah, that is 10 and a half, something like that.
11.
Yeah. I would. I'm not going to play the game. I would if I was going to. I would take the football team for the same reasons I said earlier. It's a division game. I'm not laying that many points in a division game. On paper, the Cowboys shouldn't have any problems, but the Cowboys have shown situations where they are up and down. The football team, with everything going against them last week, hung in there against the Eagles. They were winning at halftime. They had a 10-point lead before coughing it up. So, do I expect the football team to come out and get a win here? No, I don't. But can they hang? Can they keep it inside the 11? It's possible for sure. So, push comes to shove, I take the 11, but probably not a game I'm jumping to play.
Okay. Dolphins at the Saints.
Dolphins.
Just straight money line?
Yeah, they're still getting the points, right?
Yeah. Right now it's 3 right now.
I would take the 3. I would sprinkle the money line. Here's the biggest thing, and I know this game is in New Orleans, which is why the Dolphins are the dogs here. I almost wish the scout was here because the scout would love to go on a rant right now about what I'm about to talk about. Do you know who the Saints quarterback is this week?
I do. I can't remember his name. Just tell me.
Notre Dame alumni Ian Book.
Okay.
And as you will remember, me and the scout had many arguments about what Ian Book is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think necessarily that Ian Book will fall on his face in this game. But the Dolphin defense is not a good first assignment for him. I think what I do think you will see, though, and this is something, if Zach listens to this, I think Zach picked up Book in one of our fantasy leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something for Zach to keep in mind. What the Saints love to do with Taysom Hill is Taysom just snaps the ball, gets it, and goes. And that's how he gets the rushing yards. Taysom can actually be used now as a decoy for Book because Book can run the football. He's not built like Hill, but Ian Book can move. Ian Book is mobile. He ran a lot for Notre Dame. So I think you will see a lot of kind of playing off of Taysom Hill in this game. Whether, obviously Book will let Taysom do his thing. I think you'll see a lot of times where Taysom just comes in to replace Book and Taysom does his thing on his own. But I think you'll see a lot of them both on the field and working off of each other. I think Book will get you a good chunk of rushing yards, and then you get what you get in the air, and so be it. I'm not sure that necessarily gets them a win, but I think Book will show you that he's certainly got tangibles.
I don't disagree. I think I still like Miami in this game. I think Miami is going to win this pretty clearly. Ian Book, I mean, this is really his chance to maybe potentially secure himself a backup role next year. I don't really see him getting much else other than that. Miami's defense isn't a good one for him to face straight away. but you know, I don't think he can do any worse than people are thinking he's going to do. So it's not like that Kendall Hinton situation for Denver. We're not looking at something like that. So he's going to be okay.
No. He'll be way better than Kendall Hinton. I can guarantee you
He's
that.
going to be better than Josh Freeman when Josh Freeman played a week after signing with the Vikings against the Giants. Like, he'll be better than that for sure.
There you go. What is the over-under in that game?
Ooh, let me pull it up here real quick. Let me get my phone back out. Sorry. It is 37.5.
Ah, let's see. There was the one I was looking for, the 41. Nah, 30. Yeah, 37. I think I do a pick 'em pool every week, and for the Monday night game, you have to pick the the tiebreaker is picking the total number of points for the Monday night game. I think when I did it, I wrote down 35. 37 is tight. 41. If it was 41 and a half, I would have told you to take the under. 37 is tight. Yeah, that's a good number. Never mind. I was all ready to tell you to take the under.
I would still take the under. That could be a 10-3 game for all we know.
Yeah. I mean, I can't. I wouldn't hate you if you take the under. I mean, let me put it this way. I mean, if you're going to take one side, I'd say take the under as opposed to take the over. But I think that number is right on mark.
Yeah, it's pretty close, I think.
All right, so that's all the NFL games there. Those are our picks. We ran through the whole gauntlet. Like I said, we've gone through the bowl games before on the show. We can post those up on Twitter as the games come up. So that's that. So we're going to do NU here. How do you want to do this, Josh? Are we going to take a break here in between? What are we doing? Taking a break?
Yep.
Okay. I was going to say, it seems like Teddy is a little calmer. I don't hear him so much in the background. So
Gonna double check and see what that situation is, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Check
so yeah, we'll be back. In the next half hour or so.
Yeah.
I was with NU. So just pay attention. If you're in the chats or anything like that, we'll let you know when we're getting ready to come back. But until then, that's it for this show. We'll see you guys shortly for NU.